Good evening from New York. I'm Ali Velshi in for Chris Hayes. Donald Trump says it's his opinion that the Bureau of Labor Statistics rigged the jobs numbers against him. That was his justification for firing the Commissioner of Labor Statistics, an argument that he repeated during an interview with CNBC earlier today.
When they say that that nobody was involved, that it wasn't political, give me a break. It's a highly political. It's a highly political situation. It's totally rigged. Smart people know it. People with common sense know it. And a lot of people like to keep their head under the covers.
Now, the average voter does not need the Bureau of Labor Statistics to tell them what their employment situation is or whether they'll be able to get a raise. But for those of us who report on the economy, or economists who study it, or policymakers, we really rely on it to understand trends. Once you mess that up, it makes it really hard to get an accurate assessment of the situation. As the Nobel Prize-winning economist Joseph Stiglitz told me over the weekend, trying to understand the economy or the labor market without accurate BLS data is like driving a car without an odometer. You go from relying on a simple but effective little counter that tells you not just the specific mileage that the car has been driven, but gives you historical context about why the car, or in this case, the jobs market or the economy, might be exhibiting certain characteristics. It provides you with data you can't do without when you need to make important decisions. So firing one department head in order to censor the truth is bad enough on its own. But it speaks to a larger political project by this White House and this administration. Donald Trump does not want you to know the truth. He does not want you or independent experts to be able to see or interpret the data. He wants you to believe that only he can be trusted to give you the score. To be clear, this isn't new. Trump has been telling the American people not to believe their lying eyes about the economy for about a decade now.
Don't believe those phony numbers when you hear 4.9 and 5% unemployment. The number's probably 28, 29, as high as 35. In fact, I even heard recently 42%. Do you think we'd have gatherings like this if we had 5% unemployment? Do you really think we'd have these gatherings?
That is candidate Donald Trump in 2016, suggesting that unemployment might have been at 42%. But it's not just the economy. The last time Trump was president, he bungled the federal response to a once-in-a-century pandemic, in large part because he conditioned folks to listen to him and ignore the experts like the folks at the World Health Organization about things like the global death rate.
Report today, the global death rate at 3.4%, and a report that the Olympics could be delayed. Your reaction to that?
Well, I think the 3.4% is really a false number. Now, this is just my hunch. But based on a lot of conversations with a lot of people that do this, because a lot of people will have this and it's very mild. They don't know about the easy cases because the easy cases don't go to the hospital. They don't report to doctors or the hospital in many cases. So I think that number is very high. I think the number, personally, I would say the number is way under 1%.
Now, look, it can be very complicated to calculate a global death rate, especially during the very early days of a pandemic. But the solution is not for the president of the United States to tell everyone to believe his hunch over the research of scientists. Nor is the solution for the president to wave away concerns about rising case numbers by blaming the fact that the U.S. was simply testing too many people for the virus, something you'll recall he did repeatedly back in 2020.
One day this week, 75,000 new cases, more than double.
Chris, that's because we have great testing, because we have the best testing in the world. If we didn't test, you wouldn't be able to show that chart. If we tested half as much, those numbers would be down.
When you do testing to that extent, you're going to find more people. You're going to find more cases. So I said to my people, slow the testing down, please. They test and they test. We got tests that people don't know what's going on.
So I said to my people, slow the testing down, please. Sometimes Trump's refusal to accept data even bordered on the laughable, like the time he showed off a map of a hurricane's path, which had been doctored with a Sharpie. The story of the two Trump administrations is one of undermining public trust in institutions, government institutions as well, which is essential to the coordinated messaging that autocrats and dictators require to maintain control. Information comes from us and through no one else. Ultimately, Trump is likely not going to need to fire the second BLS commissioner or the second federal prosecutor or any number of folks he's brought in to replace the independent experts that he's purged from the government. Firing one is often enough to send the message to the next one. Pretty soon, there'll be no one left to fight with him anymore. In fact, he's still making noise about firing the chair of the Federal Reserve just today, using the same argument about political enemies working against him from within.
Jay Powell is highly political, and I think, I call him too late. Jerome, too late. Powell, he's too late. He's too late always. He always has been, except when he came to lowering interest rates before the election, he did. He worked that out. Somebody that worked for him, he was a big fan of his, not a fan of his, he hardly knew him, but he wanted him so badly. I did somebody a favor. I put him in there. No, he's too late. He's too late.
I did somebody a favor and put him in there. Robert Reich served as the Secretary of Labor under President Clinton. He's now a professor emeritus of public policy at the University of California, Berkeley. He's the author of a brand new book called Coming Up Short, a memoir of my America, which is out today, and he joins me now. Bob, nice to see you. You and I have had a lot of chances to talk over the years, very few in person.
Yes, so it's good to see you in person.
It's a great double entendre, the book. One is a reference to you being short. The other one is substantially more important, and it's an idea that we have historically in this country come up short in our promise. I want to discuss that with you in just a moment. But you were the Labor Secretary. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is part of the Department of Labor. That organization may have things it can do better in terms of counting numbers, but they count numbers. That's fundamentally what they do.
The irony is that not only do they count numbers, but this organization is the crown jewel of the entire government data collection process. BLS, when I got to the Labor Department, everybody said, one thing you've got to do as Labor Secretary, forget everything else if you want, but one thing you must do is protect the integrity of this crown jewel from politics,
right,
from anybody that wants to influence it. And indeed, that was it wasn't that difficult because they're professionals.
Yes.
They're career people. They know how to do it. They have been doing this for years, and they do it better and better.
I invite viewers to just go to BLS.gov if they've ever gone there. It's a lot of data. If you don't like data, you're going to get a little scared. But it's a lot. It's just stuff.
It's a lot of data, but it's also the kind of data that we need,
yes,
and the whole global economy needs to, yes, kind of figure out where we're going. 5 days ago, most people in this country had no idea what the BLS was.
Yes, they still don't know really who ran it and who got fired.
But it is critically important. And for Donald Trump to basically criticize it on the basis of no information, nothing, and to undermine its credibility and to say, well, I'm going to put in my person who is going to give me essentially the numbers I want, is extraordinarily dangerous and irresponsible.
So I got a lot of books here. I got your books, and then I brought two Bibles. Why? Because I spent a lot of time.
The two Bibles in my book.
And your book, right. You got everything you need. The reason I've got two Bibles with me is because I study banned books a lot. And people always ask, what were the first books that were banned? And I don't have an exact answer, but it's probably one of these. This was the William Tyndale interpretation of the Bible in English from Latin. This was done in 1380. We didn't really have printing until the mid-1400s. This is the William Tyndale. This is John Wycliffe's Bible. This is William Tyndale's Bible from 1526. This was definitely banned. These were banned because the Bible used to be in Latin and nobody spoke Latin. All of a sudden, you print them in English, and you've messed up the church because the church wants to tell you what's in these books. It's not for you to determine. This is what we're seeing.
Well, we're also saying, in 1984, the book 1984,
yes,
George Orwell's 1984 dystopian novel, there is in that a ministry of truth.
That's right.
And the dictator in 1984 has a ministry that basically censors everything, wants people to understand what the dictator believes is the truth. Nobody else. He has all the facts. But of course, you can't have a democracy. You can't have people thinking for themselves. You can't have science. You can't have anything that we take for granted as part of our culture. It's not just economics. This goes way beyond economics.
It's way beyond economics.